Bordering the Empire in Bretonnia, a magical forest painted by all tints of green stretches wide from the skirts of the Grey Mountains to the west. The forest, known as Athaloran, became the home of the Wood Elves a millennia ago, as their fate somehow intertwined with the sacred forest and the spirits within. By deciding to step into the embrace of Athaloran, the Elves separated their lineage from the rest of their kin and became the Azrai, or the Faithful. However, they were neither the first beings sworn to protect the forest, nor the only ones still living in it. Beneath the thick canopy of hovering trees, unknown ancient beings have been dwelling unnoticed for ages. They watch over the living, from the smallest acorn buried under the earth to each and every one of the leaves caught by the breeze. It is a forest enchanted with magic, both fair and foul. For not every being ethereal and wise is kind. There are forest spirits so spiteful and vicious, holding centuries-old grudges in their stony hearts. Dryads are such creatures, brewing hatred and malice to spew onto the ones who mean the forest and her creatures harm. Their loyalty and dedication are solely bound to Athaloran, for they live with and through it. Amongst the most powerful and malevolent of such spirits of Athaloran is Drycha, the Briar Maven of Woe. She is as ancient as the oldest trees in Athaloran, and her memories of the past are clear. Even though connected with them by the magic of the forest, Drycha's mistrust and animosity of the Azrai is no secret. Since the early days, when the Elves found their home within Athaloran, Drycha has been riddled by the mystery of why the forest revealed her ancient secrets to their race and allowed them to live amongst the spirits. In the wake of their arrival, Drycha spied on the new folk, watching their every step closely and awaiting for their betrayal on Athaloran. Long ages have passed since those times, yet neither did she grow fond of the latecomers, nor did her interactions with them become more often. Although more than a few believe she is as merciless as she has ever been, there are stories of how she turned mad and rogue after the earth where she dwelled was cursed and tainted. How vile she might have gotten after the pitiful events of the past, Drycha still remembers the wars that wore the forest out with great hatred. But of all who intended to bring doom upon Athaloran, a beast lord named Morgur was the worst. The Corruptor, as he was known, Morgur was as immortal as the spirits themselves, being born elsewhere each time his mutated body was slain. Worshipped by the beastmen from all over the world, he was believed to have lurked on the earth even before the race of beastmen was created. When he first cast his shadow on the great forest, his blight was met with Orion, the demi-goddess queen of Athaloran. The guardian queen of the forest slew the beast for what she thought was the first and the last time. Yet, their encounter was merely the beginning of a ferocious war that was to last for ages. As the Wood Elves went on hunting the herds of beastmen they caught in Athaloran, the creatures sought the hidden paths of the forest to escape the gaze of the Elves, for they were being summoned by Morgur himself. For 2 centuries long, the Corruptor gained power in the depths of Athaloran without being noticed, and struck when he deemed the time right. It was not only his warband that Elves had to fight against, but also Morgur's terrible influence that corrupted the forest spirits and turned them against their own home. Finally, During the Battle of Anguish, Morgur was seized by one of the last tree elders of Athaloran, Choyer, giving Ariel the opportunity to finally execute the corruptor with the strength of the forest. When Morgur's physical form was destroyed, his cursed blood poisoned all the living beings where it was spilled. The grass turned black, plants perished, and the branches of the ancient oak tree twisted into claws, forever marking the place where the corrupted creature was killed. Alas, the tainted site, from then on known as the Glade of Woe, would never heal from the decay. Even with Morgur seemingly gone, the turmoil within the great forest was not to cease for too long. 5 centuries after the corruptor's passing, the Azrai were faced with a great betrayal from the ancient tree lord, Choyer. It was already known that Choyer had never intended to allow the Elves into Athaloran. At the time, they were first sighted upon the borders of the forest. Furiously had he bickered and urged his fellow elders to rid the forest of the invaders by all means necessary. He might have succeeded, if not for the ancient tree man Durthu, who finally convinced the wisest and the oldest of them, Adanhu, that the descendants of Astariel would be crucial for the survival of Athaloran in the ages to come. Overruled by the will of the council, Choyer fed his grudge for hundreds of years, until his resentment towards the Elves grew too strong to keep dormant. Perhaps partly triggered by the influence of Morgur's corruption still lingering in the forest, he contemplated to prevent the rebirth of the everlasting king of Athaloran, Orion. His intent was to slaughter the honor guards of the king, the Wild Riders, for if they failed to lead the ritual of rebirth, then maybe Orion would stay dead. The Tree Lord patiently waited for Ariel to fall into her periodical slumber within the Oak of Ages, before moving towards the King's Glade, accompanied by his dryads. With the first drop of elven blood coloring the sacred soil, the Mage Queen awoke from her slumber in dismay, and caught Choyer in the midst of his betrayal. Maddened by his treachery, Ariel condemned the ancient tree elder to imprisonment out of sight in the Wildwood, the most forsaken region of Athaloran. Exiled from the heart of his home and forced to solitude within darkness, Choyer was abandoned in a remote prison that was then encircled by waystones to keep any creature away. When the rumors of Drycha's visits to Choyer spread among the Faefolk, the news sowed fear and trouble of yet another conspiracy into their hearts. Drycha had become nearly invisible since the passing of the corruptor, keeping herself hidden from any searching eyes. Only but a few times was she seen dwelling around the Glade of Woe, repeating the names of the forest spirits she thought were wronged by the Elves. One needs not to be the wisest to foresee something dire is in the making within the shadows of the Wildwood. The Sisters of Twilight seemed to have appeared in Athaloran out of the thin air, for no wood elf had ever laid their eyes upon them. At the time of their arrival, the Mage Queen Ariel had already taken her leave from the mortal realm and disappeared into the Oak of Ages to cleanse her soul. To the great surprise of the council, the sisters, Nestra and Arahan, introduced themselves as Ariel's emissaries. They were given a place in the council to represent the vanished queen. Only after Orion unmistakably recognized a touch of Ariel's soul within the twins. Some say that the twins are the darkest and lightest aspects of Ariel's spirit made manifest. Her passion and mercy split apart from her soul, so that they can no longer dominate her being. Besides the shade of their hair, one black as coal, and the other as white as snow. The sisters look as if they are two reflections of the same person. However, one can distinguish them from each other as clear as day by the tint of their spirits. Naystra's heart harbors mercy and kindness, as if a light shines through whoever stands before her. Only at a time of great necessity would she act to take a life in order to protect Athelor, for she believes every creature to be sacred. Orion, on the other hand, is fierce and passionate in such manner that her reckless nature sometimes provokes conflicts to the despise of her twin. She has little trouble in shooting arrows with excellent precision that pierce through the flesh of the enemies of the forest. Yet their opposing demeanors somehow complete each other harmoniously, as one wholly thrives in the company of the other. Indeed, the sisters have never been sighted apart from one another, kindling further the rumors that they share the same life source that grants life to two physical entities. How supernatural and fairy-like the wood elves may seem to the human race, the Sisters of Twilight are perceived in a similar manner by the elves themselves. Not fond of speaking too many words, the sisters stand at the sides of Ariel's throne during the council meetings, as if the queen still sits on her seat, unseen by the others. The awe-inspiring weapons they wield are forged by the legendary elven smith, Lord Scythe, who tends to the wishes of both sisters with great skill and care. Accordingly, the age-old blade Naystra holds never goes blunt, and Orion receives a new spear of excellent craftsmanship for each and every battle. Worthy of their skill in archery, both sisters carry bows charmed with spells. Talon of Dawn for Naystra, shooting arrows as if they were bolts of light, and Talon of Dusk for Orion, with its arrows bursting into poisonous thorns. The sisters are known to walk untrodden paths that are deemed perilous with much ease, for they bear no fear of the monstrosities hidden in the dark. Only but the warriors of the boldest and the strongest kind challenge the sisters directly, for the reputation of their skill and power in battle is spread far beyond the borders of Athelor. The wardens of the forest hold a great privilege. That is, if one of them would be slain, the ancient magic of the forest would bring her back as long as the other still draws breath. There have been times that Orion has been taken by the darkness of death, may it be an execution at the edge of a sharp sword, or in the belly of a gorgon. She was yet again arisen by the life her sister bore. One of them cannot be killed as long as the other still lives. Solely at such moments, one would witness Naystra abandoning her peculiar tranquility and revealing a violent temper that she seldom succumbs to. Although Naystra never thrives with the thrill of the battle as her sister does, her blade rises and falls vigorously in a blind rage until Orion is given her life back once more. When the sisters set off to battle at the time enemies close in around Athelor, they are often carried atop one of their two mighty flying allies, Har of the Dragon Kin, and Gwendolor, the descendant of the Eagle King Talon. The creatures differ in everything but their love for and devotion to the twins, as either of them is glad to die 1,000 times for their mistresses. Gwendolor is a creature of deliberate and subdued deeds, as he always succeeds to find the exact distance to linger, so that the twins may shoot deadly arrows at the foe. Har, on the other hand, is a spirited and ferocious forest dragon that seldom hesitates before diving into the frenzied battlefield, close enough to allow the sisters to draw swords and get busy in close combat. The Sisters of Twilight, elven twins who were once a single being before being split into two bodies by the weave, the web of life and death that bind all living things. Together they must complete their mission, to prepare the glade for Ariel's ritual, which will heal the rift in the world. On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.